Welcome to Modern Mom Probs, where we're trying to solve the world's modern mom problems. And if we can't do that, at least we're having fun talking about them. I'm Tara Clark. Let's go. Hey, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Modern Mom Probs, where we're trying to solve the world's modern mom problems. And if we can't do that, hey, at least we're having fun talking about them. And today we're having too much fun talking about influencers and influencer culture. I am joined by Fortesa Latifi. She is a journalist and now an author. She has a new book out called Like, Follow, Subscribe, Influencer Kids and the Cost of a Childhood Online. Fortesa has written about this industry in Rolling Stone, the New York Times, the Washington Post, in The Cut, amongst many other publications, including Teen Vogue. We have a phenomenal conversation about her new book. It is my new obsession. I can't put it down. I only have about 40 pages left of it, and I'm already sad when I'm going to finish it. I'm going to have to read it a second time. It is a full expose on influencer culture and family vloggers, influencers, TikTokers, all the things. Without further ado, let me bring her on. Fortesa, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
I am so excited because your book currently is my new obsession. Anytime that I have a free moment, I've been sitting down and reading it. I'm just shy of like 40 pages away from finishing it. And I was trying so hard to finish it before our conversation and I just didn't get there. But it's my favorite new thing. And we're going to talk about everything. It's called Like, Follow, Subscribe, Influencer Kids and the Cost of a Childhood Online. And so my first question to you is, why did you feel like this book needed to come into the world?
So I wrote this story in 2023 for Teen Vogue, where I interviewed the child of a family vlogger. And the story went massively viral in a way that I think journalists are not often used to their work going massively viral. And when I finished that story, there were just so many questions left for me. And I was getting so many questions from viewers and from readers. And I was like, oh my God, there's really so much more that I have to say. And so I kept digging in, I kept reporting, and then I caught the attention of a few publishers, and I got the offer for my book, and I was like thrilled because there's nothing more exciting than having that much time and space to really get into a story, especially one like this where it can't be just like quickly summed up, I don't think.
No, I mean, there's 250 pages of like really meaty, juicy reporting. And that's the one thing I love about your work. And I've actually been following your work for a very long time before this book, because you've been writing for Teen Vogue for a while, and The Cut, and there's like several different publications that you've been writing for. So I'm so like totally fangirling having you on and chatting with you today. And as I was saying to you when we were DMing back and forth, I feel like you're like, what's the best way to say it? You know, like how Thanos has like a gauntlet and he has all like the rings in the,
yeah.
no, not the gauntlet. Is that what that's called? Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. You know, like So he has the glove, right? With all like the rings. I feel like that's how you are with this, because I've had Sarah on talking about Momfluenced. I've had Catherine on. I've had Jess Grossman. It was funny because like, when you and I had texted, I didn't even realize that you had like Jess in the book too. Like Jess has been on the podcast. Like I should really do a series of all the people that you interview in the book that I've also interviewed on this podcast. And I should put that all together as like
we should have like a round table of all of us. That would be so fun.
Oh my God, maybe I'll have you guys all back to do that. Ooh, I like the way your mind works.
Yeah.
So I'm like totally shamelessly plugging these other episodes. Guys, go listen to the other episodes. Whatever. And maybe I'll do a round table. I love that idea. So family vloggers and influencers, obviously there's a lot of interest, right? These people have tens of millions of followers. They're making boatloads of money. I was reading this book and I was like, I couldn't help but feel, what's the word? Like crappy about myself when I was like, these people are making money hand over fist. And I knew that you could relate because you mentioned that in the book too. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong that these people are doing, making so much money? But on the flip side of that, I'm a very, very private person. And that's the difference. So you can't be a private person and be making the boatloads of money that you write about in the book. Obviously, you've been reporting on this industry for a while, but you said, okay, I wrote this particular story for Teen Vogue, and you're like, this is what was the impetus to write the book. Mm-hmm. How did you go about deep diving into this industry? Because you interview a lot of people. There's a lot of stories.
I know. There are like hundreds of interviews, and there are interviews that I did that didn't even make the book. Like someday I want to sit down and like, excuse me, count how many people I talked to for the book, because it must have been like 200. Like it really was just like unbelievable. But I remember when I first started writing, I mean, I didn't even start writing. When I first started researching, I made a spreadsheet of all the people that I wanted to talk to. And that included influencers, obviously, vloggers themselves, that included kids, that included academics and experts, like you said, like Jess Gross and like Sarah Louise Peterson. And I just started going one by one and reaching out. And I just had like a very obsessive spreadsheet, and I just had to like start from the bottom, you know, and then slowly it kind of got a life of its own. And as I was reporting for the book, I was obviously still reporting for all the places that I write for. And so that kind of lent itself to more sourcing, because I would talk to people for stories and I would be like, by the way, I'm working on this book. Can I chat with you for this? You know, so it just kind of like it went that way. But it was really interesting to try to keep some of the juiciest reporting. I've been dying to tell people for like 2 years, like, guess what I found out, you know, and I've had to be like, no, shh, to myself, like, it's for the book. It's for the book.
And we won't share it now because you have to buy the book.
Yeah, I know. But it's just like, oh, it's like, I desperately want to tell everyone.
Well, do you want to like share like a nugget right now? Like, obviously, yes, we want people to buy the book.
Yeah.
And share with us a special nugget that you're here.
One of the things that really surprised me was that multiple vloggers and influencers who are parents went on the record with me and said that the content that does the best for them is when their kid is sick or sad or injured. And that revelation from them and that admission from them was really kind of like interesting for me.
Yeah, you mentioned that several times, like throughout the course of the book, right? Throughout the journey that we are on as the reader. And that absolutely broke my heart. Like there was this one mom, if I'm remembering correctly, she might be a single mom now. She has many kids, and her content does better when her kids are sick or have a broken arm or whatever it was. And like that really stuck with me. And that really, it's hard. I even had Sarah Adams from Mom Uncharted on my podcast too. I feel like it's really the trifecta. I was reading your book and I'm like, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so a big part of what she talks about and what we talk about in general is the exploitation of children online. And that's really the heart of your book.
Yeah. And I think trying to understand what is exploitation and what isn't, because I think something that other creators have that I don't have is this like unshaking understanding that, or I guess this unshaking conviction that if you put your kids online, you're a terrible person. And I don't feel that way. I don't believe that. I do not think that every vlogger and influencer is immoral and evil and a bad parent. I just don't think that. First of all, I wouldn't write it because I don't think it. And second of all, it wouldn't be very interesting if I did think that. And I think you really see me in the book wrestling with like, what does this mean when you can give your kids a life that they would have never had otherwise, financially and stability wise, but also it's at the price of this privacy. And like, I think it's unfair for people to say they wouldn't ever make that trade.
Yeah, it's true. It's a lot. During reading this book, including earlier today, I was reading it, and at one point I was shouting to my husband like across the house, and I was like, babe, would you believe that these people were going from making $25,000 a year to $100,000 a month? And he's like, they're doing what? And I was like, yes. I was like,
so
it wasn't just one person.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that is really challenging. I unfortunately am not in that position. God, I wish I were, but I probably could do things that would put me there, but I just choose not to because again, I value my privacy. And that's it's just not my vibe, but it's wild. And I said to my husband too, I was like, it's not just like one person. Like from what I'm learning from this book, it is a ton of people that are doing that. And it's really wild. And as I was reading it, I thought of many thoughts. Is that one, I didn't know a good majority of the people that you were talking about because I don't follow family vloggers on YouTube so much. It's like not content that I consume. I'm more like a social commentary YouTube kind of person. There's a guy, he's like my favorite. His name is Lazy. I don't know if you follow Lazy.
No.
Oh my God. You have to, because he's always making fun of TikTok moms and TikTok parents. You have to.
Funny.
It's like, I think the YouTube account is called Maybe Lazy with like, it's Layze. Anyway, he's amazing. He's based out of Connecticut. He's fantastic. Anywho, that's more the kind of stuff that I tend to watch. So it's like more the commentary on it, which is obviously why we're having this conversation right now.
You know what else I think it is that it's not only that you don't specifically watch these creators, but it's that there are so many of them that no one person can be aware of all of them. Because I've been in this world for years, and through the writing of this book, I would stumble upon people who had millions of followers who I had never heard of before. And I would be like, I have been reporting on this for years. How have I never heard of this person? So it's not even that you're just not into that kind of content. It's that someone whose job it is to be into that kind of content cannot keep track of all of these people.
Yeah, that's what I think too. It's like, I've been on Instagram now for 10 years. It's literally 10 years this month. And so I feel like I have really seen the gamut of this industry. And I have to say, I'm very lucky to have been able to see it from when people weren't even talking about hard conversations about parenting to where we are now. It's like night and day. Instagram is absolutely night and day. And I also made a conscious choice to never go over to TikTok. Long story short, I got a book deal and I was writing my book during the summer of 2020 when TikTok was popping off. And so by the time I like finished my book, looked up from my laptop, social media landscape had totally changed.
Yeah.
And I missed it. I just missed it. Yeah. And then I was like, at that point, I was like, oh, I don't care to pursue that because I had my book and whatever. And so it was like a totally different thing. And that's when most of these creators had really popped off and started their careers. Yeah. So you're right. There are just so many people you can't even keep track of because it's YouTube, it's TikTok, it's Instagram. It's like all over the place. And you interviewed some of my friends, which I love. You interviewed my friend Libby Ward, who it's funny. I just finished Libby's book. And then as soon as I put her book down, I picked up your book, started reading your book.
That's so fun.
Yeah. So that was very cool. But, oh gosh, there's so many thoughts that I have like about this book and about the influencer industry and all of these things. And there was this one woman that you talk about. I want to say maybe her name was like Alexandra. She's on TikTok and she was making her kids, like plating her kids' food, but it was kind of like junk food. I actually know of her because of Lazy, who is the guy that he did a commentary video all about her content. So I thought that was very funny. So all the worlds kind of come together. But let's talk about that a little bit, about putting your lives out there, putting your food, your nutrition, just like all of the stuff out there.
Yeah.
And it's consumable. Not only the food is consumable, but I'm saying the content is consumable aside from the money. Because yes, money is one thing. What do you think motivates these people to put their lives out for everyone to see?
Well, I think attention is incredibly gratifying, and you and I know that as creators in some form ourselves, like attention is really gratifying. Like I'll say on Instagram, Instagram pays so badly that I make like $5.50 a month from Instagram. Yeah. But it's making people aware of like my book and my brand and like that's important to me. But I guess it's not only the money for these people, but it is just like the attention. Like it does feel good when people are paying attention to you, whether that's in a good way or a bad way.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I used to have a weekly call with a bunch of creator friends, and we would always be complaining about our reach and the algorithm and this thing and that, and we feel aimless and whatever. And my one friend, who was a writer, her book came out last year, 2 years ago now, she stopped us all and she was like, guys, stop it. I want you to think about your why. Why are you on Instagram to start with?
Yeah.
What is your purpose? And she said for her, she always had to build up an audience in order to secure her book deal. She had a phenomenal story, a phenomenal memoir, and the publishers were like, if you can't get to 25,000 followers, we're not going to give you this book deal. And so that was her why. For me, when I started 10 years ago, I was obviously on the early side of, February of 2016. I said to my friends and family, I'm going to start an Instagram page and I'm going to monetize it. And they were like, you're going to do what? And like, nobody does that. And I was like, bet, watch me. And then I did. And then they just came from there. And what was different about like when I started that and when the bloggers were there, I did not have a blog attached to my Instagram. Like most of it was like bloggers were feeding into Instagram and not the other way around. Right. And so mine was unique in as much as like it was just a standalone page without anything else. And I built everything else after that, the podcast, the book, whatever. I did have a blog for a while, which got hacked. And then it was like such a pain in the ass to like bring it back that I just let it die.
Yeah.
So I was trying to do all the crap in the beginning ish.
Yeah.
But where was I going with that? I was going with that. It was like my why was I wanted a creative outlet. I was home with a toddler. It's lonely. You talk about how lonely motherhood is in your book. And I say that it's in my top 10 of modern mom problems is loneliness. And I was looking to create my own village. I was living in New York City, which has 8 million people. And I was super lonely. Yeah. And I had to look to, create a village that way. And that's how I did it. And so I can't blame people. So I know what you're saying about like the attention and the village and all of that kind of stuff. But it's definitely changed.
Yeah. And I don't blame people, like I feel like I have more of a mom community online than I do in real life, and I live in Los Angeles. Like, it's not like I'm in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. Like you can be lonely in major cities, so coast to coast. You could be lonely dealing with your own thing. It's hard when you have very young children and you don't have a physical village, and it's a lot. And what I love about your book too, I mean, there's so many things that I love about your book, but one of the things that I love is that in addition to your reporting, you are sharing your insights where you say, yeah, I am the mother of a young child and I'm lonely and it's hard and I live in LA and I do have family that come and help me sometimes, but like I still need friends. I still need to connect with people. And you share how the influencers make you feel sometimes. Like they make everyone feel a certain way, right? Like I was reading this book and my thing is like, God, I feel like a piece of trash because I'm not making the money that they're making and that their house is beautiful and all that kind of stuff. And like, I have a beautiful house, so I'm never going to like say that that's not the case. Like it's fine, but it's wonderful. But the point is, it's like inherently we feel a certain way because of the images that we're consuming.
Yeah. And I think the thing about mom influencers for me, especially in the postpartum period, is that they made me feel two ways. One way, they made me feel incredibly inferior because they were beautifully done up and they were making sourdough while their baby napped independently in their crib. And I was stuck contact napping with my daughter for 9 months. She like refused to sleep on her own. And I never have made sourdough in my life ever. And I probably never will. Sometimes my hair is done and most of the time it's not. But on the other hand, sometimes these mom influencers will post things where I'm like, it feels like they are the only other moms in the world who are in the trenches with me. Like, especially in the beginning when I got home from the hospital and I would cry every single day for the first 2 or 3 weeks at sunset. I would just sob and I would feel like the world was ending. And I didn't know what that was. And then I got on TikTok and people were like, oh, does anybody else as a new mom get the sundown scaries and your hormones are crashing and whatever. And then I would watch these videos and I would watch moms crying because they were so tired. And I would be like, oh my God, thank God it's not just me. Because in my normal life, everyone was living their normal lives. They weren't a new mom. I was the only person at that time in my life who was a new mom. I had friends who became new mothers a few months later. I have friends who are doing it right now. But at that moment, I was the only new mom I knew, except on TikTok and Instagram, where they were everywhere and where I wasn't alone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the important thing about it. And sometimes people will ask me questions like, well, what do you think about social media? It's all bad. And it's it's not all bad. No, it's not, because motherhood is lonely, and to see people that you identify with being vulnerable, and genuinely vulnerable, not performatively vulnerable, to see that and see oh, okay, I don't feel alone, or to have the conversations that we have now online that so my son is 13 years old. Before I had him, unfortunately, I had suffered from miscarriages and then unexplained infertility. It was a very long process to get our son, which is wonderful. And he's absolutely fantastic. And I love being a mom. It's my literal favorite thing.
Yeah.
And none of that was spoken about. 13
No.
years ago online, 15 years ago online. Like,
No.
yes.
And I wrote about that in the book, how differently, like we want to say like, or I guess some people want to say, oh, every mom blogger is just like exploiting their kids and whatever, whatever. But it's like the original mom bloggers were writing these like incredibly like heart plundering like missives about like, yeah, unexplained infertility and miscarriages and postpartum depression and weaning your child from breastfeeding. And it was like beautiful and it was creating a community. And I think like the way that you grew into motherhood online is so different from the way that I have, because I get to just go online and see motherhood reflected back at me so easily, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's wild. I have two thoughts that are sort of going on simultaneously, but I'll say my first one. You're familiar with Scary Mommy, the blog.
Yeah.
Obviously, right? I had Jill Smoker on the show last year, and we were talking about early mom blogging and parenting blogging. And she was joking how when I came up, so I sort of started as like a mommy memer, right? So my forte is to write one line quips about parenting, right? Like that was my like shtick. And so we were laughing how, you know, for the long form people, when the new people were coming up and like saying essentially an entire story in a line or two, they were like, oh my God, that's the worst. And now here we are as the mommy memers. When the video people came in, we're like, no, that's not how it is. And so it's funny to see the evolution of content over time. And how like the people that are creating that content then view the others that are sort of like coming down the pike. It was just funny because when Jill was saying that, she was like, because we were talking about like, I asked her, what do you think about creators now in comparison to when you got started with Scary Mommy and all of that kind of stuff? And what she was saying is, to your point, is that people were writing long form prose about their experiences as opposed to a 7-second clip about it or something.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it was interesting. But you know, the other thing that you said that really stuck with me is that you're seeing motherhood reflected back to you online. Part of the reason how and why I started my account is that there, again, Instagram wasn't really a thing so much back then. It existed, but like people weren't like posting to it like that. We were at that point, we were just taking pictures of our salads and lattes and sandwiches, and that was, and maybe a sunset, a sunset, and that was about it. And Facebook groups were very popular. And I lived in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and there was, there still is, a Facebook group called the Upper East Side Moms. And it was, and it is, continues to be so out of touch for the most average people you can't even imagine. So when I started my account, I had called it NYC Mom Probs. And I was talking about living in New York City and the problems that, I'm using this in quotes, first world problems that we have living in New York City versus like living in different places. And, the reason why I'm mentioning this is that those Facebook groups, although they are intended to try to reflect back real motherhood, many times they don't.
No.
You know, many times they're, I mean, especially in the Upper East Side, was like just like a world different from other places in whether it's in New York City or just across the country.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
no, totally.
Like, do you have a lot of experience with the Facebook groups too?
No, Facebook groups, I think for my age, Facebook groups are not the thing. You know, I've never, well, I will say, I guess I got on one Facebook group for local moms when I was like looking for childcare. And that's how we met our wonderful nanny. But that's the only, I've never gone back on it since then. I like got in, got what I needed and got out, you know?
That was smart. No, that was a smart move. No, I literally started my account to sort of lampoon the stuff that I was seeing over there. Cause you were like, you can't make this crap up, you know? And like, that's sort of how that evolved. And that was almost like influencer stuff even before influencers existed, if you could imagine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's wild. But again, that's the evolution of the internet. That's the evolution of social media, even modern parenting. You know, if our children, let's say, are 10 years apart, right? Like my parenting experience is so different from your parenting experience, just inherently, you know, on with the stuff that we're seeing and consuming online.
Yeah, it's so different. Yeah, I have two older sisters who my oldest niece is 13. And it's just, it's incredibly different, like the way that they parent versus the way that I parent.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think that kind of stuff. What do you think was one of the biggest shockers from the research in the book, aside from the content with the sick children?
Yeah. Well, I think People are constantly asking, why are so many influencers Mormon? And I got to an answer in my book. I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but I got to an answer that the Mormon church has a direct hand in why so many influencers are Mormon and in supporting those influencers. And that was like something that I was like, I had no idea. Nobody has reported on that. I was like totally shocked.
Yeah, that's something that I've been interested in for like a really long time. And again, I've been doing this for 10 years, right? So for me, when I first got started, I was like, why are all these girls beautiful and blonde and they all look the same? Like I didn't understand that. So I had to do my own research to try to figure that out. So when you spoke about that so beautifully in the book, I was like, good for you. Like, I'm glad that you spoke about that. And this is going to sound really dumb, but I'm just going to say it. Like, I'm from the New York, New Jersey area. I had never met a Mormon in my entire life.
I'm from Arizona, so I've known many Mormons. We actually had like a temple, I think it's called a temple, like attached to my high school because there were so many Mormon kids, and it was a public high school, but there were so many Mormon kids that they would just go over and go to services like during the school day.
It's amazing.
So that's Arizona.
That's amazing. Where are you, near Phoenix?
Tucson. Yeah, Tucson. But then my sisters grew up we moved around a lot, but they grew up on the East Coast. And so they didn't have that experience. And now one of my sisters lives in Westchester in New York. And
that's she's by me.
Yeah. I'm sure. I know. Next time I go, we're going to have to we're
going to have to hang out.
Let me ask you something. Who creates the comfort that makes a house feel like a home? It's mom. It's usually mom. In this Mother's Day, I've been thinking, what would it feel like to actually give her comfort back? And that's why I love Cozy Earth. Their robes and slippers are truly next level. They're soft, breathable, and thoughtfully designed pieces that feel like a deep exhale at the end of a long day. I love how intentional everything feels, from the cozy fabrics to the little details like the fit and the pockets. It's not just loungewear, it's self-care. I'm actually wearing my Cozy Earth joggers right now. So this Mother's Day, let's give her something that actually gives back. Head to cozyearth.com and use my code MODERN for 20% off. And if you see the post-purchase survey, make sure that you mention that you heard it right here first on Modern Mom Probs. Because home starts with mom.
100%.
But yeah, it's very different. But so I don't think that's crazy at all, because it was different for me growing up in Arizona. But like my sisters, even who didn't grow up in Arizona, they're like, what is this?
Yeah, that's the thing. And so there's that sort of culture shock, for lack of a better term, I'll call it culture shock, to be introduced to this culture that, like, for us, like, we didn't. Like, the kind of the wild thing is, in New Jersey, in New York, we have everybody. Like, we have like all kinds of cultures except for Mormonism.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of like the wild thing, I think, about that too, to a certain extent.
Well, I think also in the Mormon chapter of my book, there's reasons why there's not many Mormons in New York. And that's because of the way that Mormons were pushed across the country. And so they were first in Illinois, and then they got pushed out of Illinois because there were all these rumors about them as a religion, and people saw them as very un-American and un-Christian. And so they were pushed, further and further west. And so there's a reason that there aren't that many Mormons in New York.
Yeah, no, I thought the reporting on that was beautiful. So kudos to
Thank you.
Like that chapter. That's the thing about your book, is like, it is so well researched. Like, you can tell that you interviewed so many different people, PhDs, influencers, like other authors who have been on the show, like just so many people across the board that I was like, she like put the work in. Like, you genuinely put the work in. Oh my God,
did I put the work in? Yeah, it was, I know. My husband was reading it and he was like, it makes me feel kind of nauseous to think about how much work like put into every page and how many interviews went into every single page. And I'm like, yeah, it also same, but also like, I loved it. I had a blast. Like, I had so much fun. Like, it was the hardest thing I've ever done professionally, but it was also the most fun that I've ever had professionally.
Yeah, that it shows through in the work. Like, you can tell.
You.
No, it was awesome. I love it. At one point, you had asked an expert, a PhD from Seton Hall, and it was like the College of Human development, culture, and media. And I turned to my husband and I was like, I'm going to go get my PhD from Seton Hall. Seton Hall's in New Jersey. So it's only like it's like a half an hour from here. I was like, I didn't even know they had a school about human development. And I was like, oh, that's it. My goal, like when I get like older, like retirement age, is I want to get a PhD. And so that's sort of my thing. I already have an MBA in media management. So I feel like you go from the MBA in media management to a PhD and like,
why not keep going?
Right? Why not? It's fun. I like reading.
Yeah. Me too.
So that we could like continue to like put forth books like this and all this kind of stuff. And that's what I think is interesting about your book and books from your peers like Sarah and Jess and stuff like that, is that I read it from a sociology standpoint. You know, I'm not reading it as somebody like, okay, I'm an influencer, whatever, I'm a content creator. It's like, yes, I think that's interesting because it's my industry. But deeper than that, I love sociology so much. And I love communication and I love media so much. It's like, I can't read enough about this kind of stuff.
Me neither. I just want to talk about it all day, every day.
Same. Oh my God. Oh my God. What's your one big takeaway that when folks finish reading your book, what do you want them to take away from it?
I think I want them to see that there really is a level of nuance that needs to be brought to this conversation, because I think especially online, we live in this binary world where either something is good or it's bad or it's right or it's wrong. And especially when it comes to family vlogging and mom influencing, there are huge creators whose entire platforms are just being anti these creators. And like, you know, that is what it is. But I don't think that it's lending anything really that critical to the conversation, because if you're not talking in a nuanced, complex way, like, I just don't think it's that interesting to just say like, this is evil and it's wrong, because I don't think that's true. And there's no way that if you're pushing for progress in this arena, it doesn't help to flatten the conversation, because it just doesn't lend anything. And so I want people to come away and say, wow, this is incredibly complicated, but you're not quite at the end yet, but I have a conclusion. So I won't spoil it, but I do come to a conclusion for myself, because I think you see me in the book wrestling with myself and kind of going back and forth and being like, okay, I can understand this, but this is a bridge too far. And like, okay, if I were in a different, less privileged circumstance, I could make this choice, but oh my God, I don't understand how they made this choice. And I do come down at the end on, at least for myself, I have a fully formed opinion, but it was complicated to get there.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to that point, because I've been wrestling with it the same way that you're wrestling with it as you're bringing us on this journey. And you so beautifully in the chapter about Reddit and snark blogs, you speak about nuance very well there.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I just don't think that like, I mean, I think there's a way of looking at especially Reddit and like snarking and hating as like, well, these are like creepy basement dweller haters, whatever. But I think when I started that reporting on that chapter, I really found that the majority of people that I talk to who are in these snark subreddits are former fans of these people, and they feel wronged in some way. And so I thought that was really fascinating, because it's much more interesting to me and more truthful to say a snarker is someone who used to love a creator and now has switched and is trying to find somewhere to put that love that they had so that it wasn't wasted, than to say, oh, this is just like a creep who's on Reddit hating on someone. It's like, there's more to it than that.
Yeah, that's the part that blew my mind as I was reading that chapter, because at one point I laughed out loud because you wrote, if you've never been on a Reddit subblog, congratulations for being a well-adjusted person. And I literally laughed out loud. I have been on the Reddit subblogs just to see if they're talking about anybody I know, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, they do, and they have spoken about people that I know, which is heartbreaking to read that kind of stuff. But I never thought that they would have been people who were fans and that had turned, and that you were in the book, you were talking about how it's sort of like an unrequited love. It's an unrequited breakup, right? Like this person is breaking up with that follower or the influencer, and the influencer doesn't know. They have no idea until then the snark starts on the blog. It's
like if you tried to break up with your boyfriend and he had blocked your number and you could never give him the breakup talk. Like, what would you do? Like, you would have to put it somewhere.
Yeah. That's it. And that's a great analogy. And you described that really well. I thought that chapter was fascinating because I never considered it that way.
Yeah.
You just think that there are people that are like, oh, they're just going to hate for the sake of hating. And I think that's part of the reason why I've been on the Reddit blogs, to like try to understand, to see like what it is that they're speaking about and to try to understand what it is. And so that chapter was full of nuance.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's like the best compliment I can get from a reader is that it was nuanced, because I don't think it's black and white. I just don't. And, there are tons of creators out there who do. And if you think that and you don't want to hear anything to the contrary, like there's plenty of stuff out there for you. But if you're like, just feel kind of uneasy about this industry and have a lot of questions, then like I have a lot of answers.
You do have a lot of answers. I have, like I said, I have like the last 40 pages that I have to finish. And I have a feeling that a lot of those answers are going to come together there, because the industry, it is nuanced. It's like people can make large sums of money by not leaving their house. And you speak a lot about, or you share a lot of stories about young moms who otherwise would not simply have had the opportunity to be able to provide for their family in the same way. And I guess I never really thought much about that. I come from a single family, like a single mom home, and my mom had to work all the time. She was a bartender, so she was out of the house all the time. And like, in an alternate timeline in a different world, like it could have been a totally different thing. It could have been different. So,
and I don't think it's fair to just blanket blame these mothers for making that choice, especially when you can make your entire salary on one brand deal or one affiliate link, then like, and you can stay home with your kids, then like, how can you say that you would never consider that as an option?
Yeah, no, it's a lot. It's a lot to think about. And that's why I think you do a good job talking about that nuance, and that it's not all just like a cash grab, or it's not all just, this is the devil's work and whatever.
No, I really don't think so.
Yeah, that comes through in the book. And like I said, the reporting is just awesome. I'm going to ask you a question that I ask all of my guests, and I'm super curious to see what you're going to say. Are you ready?
I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous. It's an easy one. Or I don't know. It depends what you think. What do you think is the biggest modern mom problem today?
Jeez.
There's a lot. So take your pick.
There are so many. I think just like the crushing expectations of modern motherhood. Like this is something I think about and I talk about with my mother, because I'm one of 5 children. And I say to my mom, like, how could you ever have had 5 of us? And she's like, it just wasn't as hard. Like I wasn't sitting there holding up high contrast cards to you as infants and making sure that, you know what I mean? And like teaching you sign language and making sure. And like I had a privileged upbringing. Like my parents took care of me. Like I am in no way saying they didn't, but like they didn't sit down and like teach me sign language and make sure that like my socio-emotional health was like, more. And like the expectations were not there in the same way that they are now. And so my mom was like, it was just so much easier. And I'm like, well, what did you do with us? How did you like keep us entertained? And she's like, I didn't entertain you. Like I didn't play, like, she would play with us sometimes, but also like my mom worked. My dad is a doctor, but he didn't finish residency until he was in his 40s and I was 10 years old. And so he worked my entire childhood in residency and in training. And my mom worked my whole childhood until I was 10. And then she stayed home after that. But so I had 2 working parents, and there were 4 of us and later a 5th. And my mom's like, I didn't have time to like sit down and like make sure that you guys were like developing emotionally and like whatever. And she's like, you guys just like played with each other. And like sometimes someone like broke an arm and like that was just like, but most of the time you didn't and it was fine. And like I had a great childhood, but like I am constantly stressed over like, am I doing right by my daughter? Am I like, telling her enough times that she's like beautiful, but oh my God, don't tell her that all the time. Tell her that she's smart. And am I working on her letters enough? And she's not even 2 years old. And it's like, my mom's just like, we didn't do that.
No, I think you encapsulated that answer. Like that's it. It's the expectations. It really is. And I've learned, because now I consider myself like a veteran parent because my son is 13. The best way to be for yourself and for their own mental health is to let go of all those expectations. Like, I'm not saying lower your standards by any stretch of the imagination. Like, you need high standards. My husband is also a doctor, so I supported him while he was in residency. So I get that. But, so like, I'm right there with you. But I think shedding a lot of those expectations is the best way and the healthiest way to parent.
Yeah. And just knowing that they develop at different times. And like, I think about this with my dad. I'm Albanian from Kosovo. My parents are both immigrants. my dad's parents couldn't read or write, and he was born in a village. Like, he didn't have anything that child development experts say that you should have. And like, he's a trauma surgeon. Like, he's fine.
Yes. Yeah.
And like my mom, like, she also grew up in a village and her mom didn't read or write. And, everyone is fine. Like everyone, they've done beautifully. And like, I'm not saying that I shouldn't like give my child everything that I can, but like, also like at a certain point, they're going to be fine. Like as long as you love them and take care of them, like it's going to be fine.
Yes. It's, I could promise you it's going to be fine. Keep them
Me
fed.
like trying to convince myself.
No, Fortesa, I'm telling you, I promise you. No, she's going to be fine. They're going to be fine. Yeah. You keep them fed, you keep them loved, you keep them safe, like mentally and physically and emotionally, and they're going to thrive. That's what it is. Don't put the pressure on yourself. If I could go back and tell myself from 10 years ago or 13 years ago, just stop with the pressure. Yeah. It's BS. Like it's not healthy for you or for him. Just let go.
Yeah. No, totally. I'm trying so hard, but it's so hard these days, especially when like the mom influencers are posting videos of their 1.5-year-olds like saying the whole alphabet. And I'm like, oh my God, am I a shitty mom because my 20-month-old doesn't know her ABC? Like, it's just ridiculous.
No, it's a lot. It's a lot. When my son was that age, we used to, like I said, live in the Upper East Side, and we used to walk along like Park Avenue and Madison Avenue. And I used to show him car logos, and he knew all the car logos before he knew the ABCs. He'd be like BMW, Porsche, Maserati, Honda, Toyota.
That's such a like New York boy thing.
I'm such a New York boy thing.
That's so funny.
It's totally true. And then and then eventually he learned his ABCs. So you know what? They all learn whenever they want. And so that's the moral of the story is don't put the pressure on yourself. I know it's hard. And that is inherently, I think, the number one modern mom problem, right? Currently going on. So I'm glad that you said that one too.
Well, I feel like I nailed it. I feel like I passed a test.
You totally passed the test. And you know what's interesting, taking it full circle, the the YouTuber that I mentioned early, Lazy, who I love, he's Albanian.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm going to have to reach out to him and get him a copy of the book.
Dude, you absolutely should.
Yeah, I will.
Maybe I'll put you guys in contact or what. I'll please after we hang up.
Yeah.
I'll tell you all.
That'd be great. Yeah. The Albanian, I mean, you can't get away from the Albanians in New York and New Jersey. So I'm sorry.
No, I always grew. No, it's funny. True story. Now we're on a total tangent. My uncle owns restaurants in New Jersey, and we always had Albanians at all of our restaurants. Yeah. No, it's great. It's wonderful.
Yeah. You're used to us.
100%. I'm Sicilian, so
so it's not even
same. Yeah, totally. same. You are amazing. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had such a blast.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Modern Mom Probs. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive in today's problem with me, your host, Tara Clark. Join me next time when I'll be interviewing another great guest and tackling another modern mom problem. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review and a rating. As always, you can head over to Modern Mom Probs on Instagram and give me a follow, or check out my book, Modern Mom Probs, A Survival Guide for 21st Century Mothers, available online wherever books are sold. Well, that's it for today. See you next time, folks.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.